Hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm Candy Williamson with Creating a Sustainable You, and today we're here with Scott Amick, and he's going to talk about resilience. He has quite a lovely story, and he's a good friend of mine. I've known him a very long time. I know that a lot of you out there probably know Scott, and you're going to get to know Scott a lot better. So just a little bit of housekeeping. If we have any technological issues, please be patient with us. So far, we've been pretty fortunate with these. Also, if you're tuning in, we want to let you know if there's anyone who you think would benefit from this, please feel free to share this program, invite them to tune in and watch it later. There's comments below. You can comment at any time, even if you're watching the replay, and we'll come back and respond to any of the comments you make. So thank you so much for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. And we're just going to jump right in. And Scott, why don't you talk to us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, wow. Talking about myself. I don't think that, one of the things I was doing before this was kind of framing in my mind what the most important message that I'd like to share is. And that is that the community of Chico and Butte County at large has been incredibly kind and incredibly helpful for some of the challenges I faced, not just professionally, but personally as well. I think the apex of my story in Butte County is that a couple of years ago, my home burned down up here in Magalia. And, being such a close friend to you and to, the kind of the collective bodywork network that we're a part of.
Yeah.
The kindness just showed through right out of the gates and really did help us in some of the darker times. I say us because I'm married now. You and I knew each other back before being married, both of us, and before children. And so
we were kids, like so long ago.
So long ago, 15 years is really how long you and I have known each other. And that significant challenge happened, less than a year and a half ago, 2 years. So I've been here in Chico for a long time. Personal trainer at Fit One, personal trainer at In Motion, personal trainer at Whole Body Fitness, and then I own my own studio here in town called Advanced Body Dynamics. I also have had a chance to teach at Chico State for a long time, their outdoor education and their biomechanics program there in kinesiology. I owned a business that was a meal delivery service here in town for a while. And then I got out of all of that when the opportunity to become a speaker came along. And it was kind of the apex of all these different career choices and all these different things that have happened. I felt like it was time to go out and start speaking. And so sure enough, a couple of years of traveling the world as a speaker and an engagement specialist, a facilitator, and then COVID came along. Kind of hard to get large groups of people together when you can't get large groups of people together. So I left the speaking industry, and now I work for Paradise Recreation and Parks District as one of the public servants that's going to help rebuild the ridge and bring healing opportunities to anybody that chooses to come up here.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you do have quite a story. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed about you is that no matter what's going on in your life, you have a desire to be happy. And, you accept other people's love and you choose to find, the light at the end of the tunnel and the silver lining. And you just have such a bright spirit, and which is what has helped you to succeed in every aspect of every business you've done. And
he froze up there for a second, Candy, so I'll take the baton. So everyone out there, what Candy's talking about is, I've had this very interesting opportunity to choose happiness in the face of all of these different challenges. And the greater the challenge, the more opportunity for choice there has been. And until very recently, I didn't recognize that I was practicing self-care, and specifically mental health related self-care. So one of the things I've always been a real big fan of is journaling. I happen to have my journal with me today. It was unprompted. And when I think about journaling and I'm looking back at those 15 years that I've known Candy, I look back at so many different relationships that I've had, so many different opportunities I've had, and so many challenges. And I didn't know it, but I was practicing a model of self-care and self-resilience that until very recently I didn't have language to describe. And the more that I teach this model and the more I engage with other folks on this model, the more I recognize that many people are practicing incredibly resilient self-care practices, self-talk, being aware of the senses that they're feeling, sensing in their neurological system. And the model that really gave language to this for me, someone who is not what I would consider in the mental health field, is this model called the community resilience model. There you are, Kelly. Hello.
Got to unmute myself and make sure that we can come out. Everyone, can hear me, say hello. I figured since we lost Candy, I would pop in because you're already talking my favorite jam with the gratitude conversation. So we talked a little bit about that earlier, and I just think it's such a huge, huge opportunity to kind of reframe, what I call rewire the framework up here. That really was what helped me kind of see things a little bit differently. So go ahead and continue on. I'm going to let you take the screen here.
Well, Kelly, gratitude is a choice. And there's so many different challenges that have come through my existence that it didn't feel like I always had a choice towards my emotions. And one of the issues I had there was that I didn't really have language, or I didn't have a model for describing what was happening, between my ears. And to help others dip their toe into mental health, this is a model that I think is not only easy to teach, but it's simple. So let's go ahead and start kicking in on that. So
Candy back too. She's gonna pop in for you real quick here.
All right, cool.
Now we're all here for the party. Let me get her in, and you go ahead and do your thing, and she's gonna come on live here in just a second.
Cool.
All right, let's go. See, we always have tech issues, but we just kind of roll with the flow and just keep it going.
Well, for all of those at home, and Candy, one of the things I'm going to prompt you with is, as much as I like to speak, I really appreciate engaging because it validates our time together, which is another concept. This model has really tuned up the sparkle that exists in my life and has given me opportunities to recognize moments in my existence where I can utilize all of my senses to kind of drink in the marrow that is presence, which I think that Thich Nhat Hanh, I could start a long, long list of individuals that say presence is what it's all about. And I would say not just presence, but presence where we're utilizing all of our capacities. So some of the things the questions that I start to ask someone to frame this is, Kelly, let's get to a happy thought. A classic Peter Pan here, right?
I love it.
Who or what uplifts you?
My
what
family
gives you
and friends.
strength?
Yep.
Oh, it's theoretical. Wait until
I'm playing along here. I'm ready to go.
So who or what uplifts you? Who or what gives you strength? Or who or what gets you through hard times? You said your family, right?
Big time.
So is it your family, or is it the thought of your family? Or how do you differentiate the two? Interesting
really
thought,
good
right?
question. Yeah.
So those are the type of questions that I appreciated with the community resilience model is, is it the connection with my family? Is it the, actually physically being in front of them? Or is it kind of like what happened with Candy and I haven't seen Candy in quite some time personally, but just seeing your face again is like, it does something for my neurological system that until now I wasn't able to put a finger on. So Candy, I'll ask you the same question. What or who uplifts you? What or who gives you strength? Or what or who helps you get through hard times?
Oh man, I have a lot of answers for that, which I'm really grateful for. And so, I mean, my family, number one. I've chosen awesome people to fall in love with and surround myself with and receive love from. And then my team. One of the great things.
Oh, I think she's struggling with some Wi-Fi issues over there today.
I'll pick up what she was going to say, because we both have had a practice where we put hands on other people and we earn their trust over time. After the campfire, the people that were reaching out to my family and to myself were clients, which there's this very interesting balance as a body worker between client, confidant, friend. What I learned over time was that some of the people that gave me the happiest or most pleasant sensations were my clients, people that I got to see at some points 3 hours a week. I didn't even hang out with my best friends for 3 hours a week.
Right.
So
that's why we talked about earlier why I call them soulmate clients, because it's really people that connect on such a soulful level for me. They're not just people that I work with and take money from. It's people that I build lifelong friendships with. They become family. I mean, Candy just came over to my house about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and we've only been working together for a couple months now, but we immediately connected on a level where she's family, and she, I feel like I've known her my whole life. And it's just one of those things for me. I pay attention to energy levels, and I can't wait for you to get into this, because when I know my energy level goes up, it's for a good reason. Either that person and I connect for whatever reason. So let's go ahead and get into that side of it.
So you said connection. A couple of the gems that all of these challenges have bestowed, because I'm looking for them, are, just the knowledge of how important connection is. Not just in the time of COVID, but in my marriage, to my child, to friends, to society at large, and then also knowing when it's appropriate to put a barrier in that connection for one reason or the other. We'll get to that here in a second. That's a very important skill. What I really want you to do right now is to take a look at how you came about the answer to this first question. Don't need a response. We'll move on to our next slide. Because the more connected that we feel, the more we can keep whatever that Peter Pan happy thought is accessible, the more likely we are to be resilient. And there's a bunch of different definitions to resilience. The one that I like the most is up here on the screen. Resiliency is an individual and a community's ability to identify and use individual and collective strengths in the living fully with compassion in the moment. Can I get a hallelujah for the moment, Candy? And then, of course, that finishes with, and to thrive while managing the activities of daily living. So the way that I translate that is to find ways to be fully present, especially during challenges, time frames of challenge.
It's so important right now. So important right now. It's important every day, but right now especially.
Well, that's where we get to. So what are you saying that's different? Like, of course, we know that happy thoughts help us through our day. The key paradigm shift here, or perspective shift, is going from, at one point when we engage with another person, we're like, hey, traffic is my favorite analogy for this. You're driving along, someone cuts you off. I don't want to say unenlightened, but a challenging way to interact with that person is to assume there's something wrong with that person. They were brought up by bad parents that never taught them manners, then they can't drive, and there's clearly something wrong with them. Well, a little bit more compassionate view would be, hey, something happened to that person at some point in their life, and that's because that happened to them. This is a result, their behavior, their poor driving skills. They should have used their blinker while merging. Whereas the community resiliency model says that person is probably in the right, meaning there's something going on in their life that we don't know about. And that's the classic, like they're on their way to the hospital, or their parents just died, or. This model asks us to extend that not just from traffic, but to every single interaction that we have. And that includes, most importantly, the interactions we have with the voice that's inside of our head. And I don't know about you, Candy, but that voice can be pretty loud sometimes and fairly terrible to me. So here's some of the linguistics to describe how the community resilience model asks us to interact with our own neurological system, the own voice inside of our head. This could be a transformational piece of information for those that have never been in the mental health or wellness sector. Candy, we have here the resilience zone, also known as the I got this, the I'm okay, I can handle almost anything that comes at me zone, which some days I know you wake up and you're like, I got this. But then there's those other days. The big leap, the big thought that I'm asking you to have is that we have more control over that than we're aware of. That we have more control over our resilience zone than most people understand.
True.
Because at any given point, we're only a couple minutes away from something that comes in and sends us out of our zone, that either sends us up, makes us the Hulk, right? Edgy, irritable, manic, too much energy in our system that has to be discharged. That's leaving the resilience zone on the high end. But then there is the other end of that. Something that happens to us or that we interact with that sends us down into our depression, isolated, exhausted, fatigue, or numbness zone. And numbness is the one that I think is the most scary because it's hard to bring some of those sensations back online. So one of the things that you do, Candy, is you ask someone about this before one of their sessions. What do you think you're asking them at that point? Like, what do you, when someone shows up and they're like, hey, I've got a pain here, I really need help. What are you assessing?
Really, like, part of what we do here, it's so much more than body work. It's getting in tune with people and asking them what they're feeling. A lot of times you say, oh, my shoulder hurts or this, but they're rounded forward. And it's like, well, you look like you're feeling, closed off and sad and, protecting yourself. And a lot of people don't make that jump. They don't get that this is protecting your heart space, that this is where you're hiding hurt. And so it causes this hump in your back. So you feel it in your back and your neck and your shoulders. And so what we're asking people is, do you realize that your body is communicating with you what your energies and emotions aren't able to make yet? So that comes through in, numbness and all sorts of things where people are not connected enough that it comes into this physical form.
Thank you for connecting those dots, my old friend. That's ultimately what this model allows us to do, is to put language to, hey, so if someone's physical neurological system, which I'm always seeing a neurological system from me, if their neurological system is saying protection down and in here, I find it hard to believe that that person is in the high zone, that they've left it and that they're hulking out and they're energetic, because the energetic person is manic like this. So what we do is we start to ask questions and then offer skills to say, hey, bro, this is not where you want to live. Pathologies will continue to develop, and there's only so much work that you can do to help them out of this. But here are the skills that will allow someone to be more aware of what's going on. We call that tracking. So these are a list of common reactions to when trauma happens. We label them as spiritual, behavioral, relationships, physical, emotional, and then, of course, the thoughts that keep happening here. The one that you focus on the most, I believe, is spiritual. And I like that actually precedes the physical, in that at any point when you're treating someone, I know that you're treating their spirit first through their body. So I hope you heard the compliment there.
I did.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that this model works so well, is that we understand through the community resilience model that we are doing neurological work while we're also doing mental health and self-care work.
Yep.
That at any given point, we are a manifestation of what's happening in our neurological system. And that's a pretty big shift from what's wrong with you to, dude, there's more right with you than there is wrong, or else you'd be dead.
Sure.
So we expect some common reactions, and then we expect those reactions to be associated with different skills. This is the meat and potatoes of why I'm here today, is to teach you two some skills. And hopefully others are so interested in it that they want to learn those skills as well. The bubble that I have blown up real big here is tracking and resourcing. Those are the ones that we're going to go over today, as well as the help now skills. So that if somebody watches this, they've got new skills ready to implement moments after the video is over.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
So we're back to our resilience zone. We're going to start talking about tracking. Tracking is ultimately starting to understand what's going on within you and where you're at in your resilience zone. Because unless you put your mask on first, you're no good for anyone else. And I've seen you do that before some of our sessions, is you're like, hey, I need to ground myself in order to be a good practitioner. Why do you do that?
I'm acutely aware of if you're not grounded and wholly embodying yourself, then you'll take on other people's energies. In the same way that you can be in a good mood or happy and you're fine, and someone comes in and they're angry and all of a sudden you're angry, and that's because you're not grounded and you're not tuned in. And so having the skills and ability to become present with where you are makes you solid to be able to interact with anybody wherever they are.
It's like, it's like you knew that I was going to teach some skills today.
Weird.
This is the low-hanging fruit for value added. Okay, you're triggered. You're either up or you're down. The goal is to bring about some sensory information that helps us either widen our resilience zone over time or to be comfortable with where we're at. So, but here are a couple of skills before we even get into tracking, which is the inward awareness. I teach these first because even the process of teaching these skills could trigger something. So here are the help now skills, like, oh, I'm losing my stuff. I need a skill to bring me back in. These are some of my favorites. So we've got listening to sounds. One of the things you'll notice about this slide is that each of these recommendations addresses a different sensory input, which that's kind of a Da Vincian process that I love, that if you want to feel fully alive at any given moment, excite as many of your senses as possible and be aware of them. So some of the ones that I like, oh, I'm triggered. I need to go listen to some pleasant sounds. The one that's helped me the most recently is taking a drink of water.
Yeah.
That you want to talk about being brought into the present moment, ice water. Boom. It's hard to think about anything else when that. One that I didn't know that I thought was kind of fun that I tried the other day after kind of having my own little spin out is pushing against a wall. Very similar to grounding. Pushing against a wall gives our body the sensory information that we are experiencing gravity. And we have a spatial awareness at that point. Great way to bring us out of an anxiety or a panic attack.
Do you do both hands on the wall at that point, or one hand? Like, what would you recommend in that kind of situation?
It's your world, girl. I'm just living in
it. Good answer. I like it.
And that actually most of these skills, the progression is try them on for size. Does this work for you? No, it doesn't work for me. Great, because you've got like 9 other options here.
That's
Find
my
the
world.
one that works best for you. Exactly.
Keep pivoting. Yep, totally. I like that.
So for both of you right now, and one of the ones that I've also appreciated is touch the furniture around you.
Yep.
Feel the temperature in the room. Focus your attention on something you see. And this is all in the physical world around us.
Yep.
Then we've got some of the classics. Count to 10. Go on a walk. Oh, this is too much. I'm going on a walk. Those are things that actually, I would say that out of this list, it's likely that people are already doing these things, just naturally. Those are the help now skills. But they fit into a larger understanding that is all of this trauma, all of this sensory input, all of these feelings, they live at different places in the body. And based on this research study, I don't remember which university is right here. This is where people experience anger, fear. I love the happiness. Look at where people report sensing happiness.
All over.
All over.
Yep.
I thought that was really, really like, ooh, cool, interesting.
Yeah.
It's also prudent to mention that over here on the side, sensation originates in billions of receptors. Tell me again, you're not like a miracle of creation. Billions of receptors? I have a hard time counting to 100 without getting bored.
Woo!
All of our life experiences tunes these different senses, tunes these receptors. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know because you feel it in people's bodies. Okay, let's get into the most important of the skills, which is being inwardly aware. That's called resourcing. That's actually not called resource, it's called tracking, but we're going to use resourcing to understand tracking. So what do you see up on the screen right here, Candy?
Well, I see Jenna. Oh my gosh, you guys are so
My lady girl.
Yeah.
That's my wife, pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant in this picture, along with my daughter, Reese Music. Getting back to the first slide that I asked both of you, I was like, hey, what's your happy thought? These are a series of my happy thoughts. These are the things that are in my tool belt that when I feel myself cruising either up or down out of my resilient zone, it's not hard to reach for my wife and daughter and the pleasant sensations that they bring out. You knew at one point that I was a guitarist. This is a picture of Guitar World. This is like my happy place. I go in there and I'm like, oh. And then, of course, I think something that other people will also relate to is I just appreciate being out in nature, in silence, and allowing my neurological system to just drink in all of nature. So I'll turn this back and I'll say, okay, Candy, a resource is a person, place, thing, memory that makes you feel calm, pleasant, peaceful, strong, and resilient. It can be real or imagined. And it can be internal, external. Boy, that's a pretty vast amount of options, right?
Yeah.
So let's develop 3 resources for either of you right now. It shouldn't be very hard. And those of you at home, if you're taking notes, you should have 3 resources at the ready at almost any given point. Yep. So, Candy, 3 resources. Kelly, 3 resources. Candy, you go first.
My husband and my boys bring me so much joy, it's ridiculous. Every time I think about them, my heart fills, they make me laugh. They're just, it's amazing watching people grow and learn and to feel loved and supported like that. Like, I hope everyone gets to experience something like that level of joy in their lives. And my team, because they're my friends, they're my community. We love and support each other, and it's just, I love being surrounded by love, right? And so that's love stuff. And then I love being in nature, and part of that is even whether there's anybody else out there or not, I can be so present with a leaf or the dirt or a tree. Like, I'm just, anybody who enters in while I'm in nature, I'm just like, hi, isn't it amazing? Aren't you stoked to be here? Like, it's so beautiful. So
I love that.
Don't be ashamed of that, Candy. I saw you kind of like, bro, you're in the right place for this, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Kelly and I talked about the same thing.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, that's so me. Anytime I get to like a waterfall or a lake, or just, for me, it's bodies of water that are really anything nature really, but bodies of water are my grounding places. And so it's a whole different level for me. I'm like Candy. I get into that giddy little girl stage where just everything is so magical and it's just so amazing. Yeah. I love that. And that's really important for me. So I would go with family and friends, obviously, for the first one as well. That for me is just my most important thing in the world. And then obviously the lakes and bodies of water are my second. And my third one is a little bit more internal and kind of, I guess, a physical thing. I really ground myself with my essential oils and my things that kind of make me happy and grounding. So my crystals, my essential oils, like my little me time things, that is what kind of takes me back to a level of, okay, get centered, find out what's going on in here, and then kind of continue to go forward with whatever the issue at hand is.
You know, and it's true, like I meditate every day. One of my favorite gifts in this is one of my teachers, Scott Wyman. I'm not sure if you...
Oh, come on, Scotty.
So I had a retreat with him, and what happened is the lunch service showed up in the middle of a meditation, and there was like clanking and all this noise, and he said, you know, to observe it as part of the practice, right? The listening to sound, like what you mentioned in the previous one. And it's been this huge gift, because when I sit at home and I meditate and I hear my kids and my husband walks through the room and turns the light on or whatever, it, instead of being like, no, my perfect situation isn't there, it's, there's noise. Oh, there's a man I love. Oh, that's the sounds of the kids that I love. And just being present with whatever is, instead of being like, it has to be totally quiet and perfect in my little box for this to work. It's like, nope, I'm just gonna just be and like notice. And that's like every day. I do that multiple times a day.
I think you're speaking towards the power that comes from surrender.
Yes.
Speaking of the power of surrender is, it's twofold. Number one, it's, I can only have so much control over what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what I can control, or what I can learn to control to gather skills towards, is how I'm interacting with it.
Yeah.
And therein is a segue into our next slide. Which, no, let's try that again. Okay, so I'm at resourcing, right, cool. So what I've got up right here is, I've got resourcing. I wanted to get back to this guy right here. Okay, so tracking. Tracking is essentially turning the lens inward and sensing where in our body some of these thoughts, feelings, emotions, or concepts come from. The reason that it's called a community resilience model tool is that it's something to be used in a time frame. It's not something that to sit on a shelf.
Mm.
Part of this model is also then connecting with another person based on what some of those similarities are, while also keeping in mind that what may bring us pleasant emotions could bring another person the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the neat things about the skill, practicing these skills, is the more we become aware of what's going on with our own neurological system, the more open we are to what's happening in another person's neurological system, which most of the people that are going to watch this today are probably high-level empaths, service-oriented humans, and regardless of what sector of the world you're in professionally, I think that there's more room towards for each person to develop their own skill set so that they kind of become WD-40 in almost any situation. By recognizing that someone is in their high zone, we can address them from a lower zone. Seeing someone that's in a lower zone, I don't know about you, but I think it's harder to pull someone up than it is to kind of let them come down naturally. And then I think that the ultimate skill set is to recognize when that's not welcome or appropriate.
That's the one. Not your.
Yep.
Less is more, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest key factor that you said is interacting versus reacting. And so you're figuring out how to control the difference between the two in your own self. And that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't really take the time to learn those skills, right? We're always reacting to situations and never really kind of just taking a time to step back or to interact in a way that makes sense for the situation at hand.
And there's,
that's where go ahead, Katie.
There's times when you're just supposed to allow someone to be where they're at. Like, it's not your job to save them or to fix it for them. They just need you to hold space. And so if you can notice that, one of our favorite little sayings around the office lately is a wise man once said nothing.
Oh,
I love that.
The reason I put my hand over my heart for that is because I've heard it said a little bit differently. It's also been probably I would say the single most impactful piece of advice for interacting with, how do I say this carefully and not get smacked later? in my personal relationships with those that I might have a child with.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there. I'm taking that to my husband as soon as we get off this call. Okay.
That's it. It's my wife. I've heard it said, never miss a chance to shut up.
Your wife is a wise woman.
Well,
and another way to say that is, I just need someone to listen. You know, because often we're like, how am I supposed to do or hold or help or correct, when really
Yep.
we've all had that moment where it's like, I just need to open and be vulnerable and share my truth, and I'm not broken, and there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just being authentically present with who I am, and all I need is for you to love me in this moment just as I am.
So
Not looking for a solution.
Let's get to the neurology of what that allows. We saw that in the slide in this bad boy right here. There we go. In this slide, what we're literally talking about is when a person is wound up, one of the things that will allow an energetic release neurologically is to process verbally. And so that's a neurological act. What you're saying is, I just need some space, and I just need someone to listen. What I hear neurologically is, hey, I'm wound up and I need a safe place for this energy to go. And we say energy as in like kind of metaphysical, but I want to get down to the brass tacks of like electrons moving.
Yeah.
I know. So fun, right? So where do these electrons go once, well, first they're here. Your body allows them to move out through some of the work that you do, decreasing tension mechanically, which is, even doing something mechanically is doing something neurologically. So I think that that's the overarching thought that I love to continue to reiterate is, at any given point, we are doing incredible neurological work on ourselves and others by utilizing those skills. So once we leave this call, I like the moment when I take off my headphones and I decompress from being all wired, talking to two amazing people and sharing this, is there are spaces in the day where these skills are more appropriate or most powerful. The ones that have been the most powerful for me are transition moments. The moment our good brother Gil Wesley introduced me to a concept. Every time I step through a door, I step through the liminal space, the space that's not in my office and not in the hallway. I kind of use that as a Wonka wash, like going through whatever happened in the office space, in the office. You arrive home, you're on a phone call with your brother who's all worked up about something. The phone call hangs up. You don't have to rush right into the house to hang with the boys. You can take 30 seconds to ground yourself, to drink a sip of water, to capture some of your other sensory information in order to bring you back into your resilience zone. So that the second you step on the other side of that door, whatever hits you, you're going to be more prepared for it.
I love that, because I just like you said, when I get done with a call or a strategy session or something, I'm like you. I'm so pumped and so wound up, and it's like I don't give myself that time to decompress and to reground and to recenter. I just go to the next thing, and I'm not understanding why the next person isn't on my level right now.
Yeah.
Like I have to really understand of making sure that I get back to ground zero for me, and just really kind of making sure I'm centered again.
Candy, I know you have those opportunities in between each person that you see all day. Tell us a little bit about what your process is.
So actually, one of the fun things is that, I'm more in a management role, running the wellness center and training my team and guiding them and helping them. And so one of the things I love is that when I see one of my team members come in, okay, we're going to have a meeting, is we actually take a minute to breathe. We take a minute to check in, like, where are you at? What's going on with you? Okay, like if you're, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling tense or anxious, or all right, let's just take a moment. Let's do a little grounding. And so we go through different processes of grounding. Either I guide them or it's something we do together. I have a very silly thing I do when I transition from home, is I sit in my car. I get in, I park in the driveway, and I sit in my car. And I just sit there. And my husband and my kids are always like, what are you doing? Like, because like they see me pull in, and then I just sit in the car for like 5 minutes, and I just breathe, and I just like, that's my transition from work into home. Now I walk in, I put my work things down, and I'm mom, and I'm wife, and I'm family, and I'm friend. And so, it's like you take those moments where it's like, all right, how do I do that transition? And so at work, we're doing it very consciously, which is helpful, because if you don't have that as like a unconscious habit, which most of us don't, making like a conscious effort like that has been really great. Yeah.
Well, let's validate. So I just took a deep breath right there. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the community resilience model recognizes is that taking a deep breath may not be, that's not a universal chill out. That some people taking a deep breath may be incredibly triggering for a lot of reasons. Adverse childhood experiences. That's why those help now skills and the resourcing skills become more important, because that increases the number of skills that each of us has. Today may not be the day that I need to take a deep breath. Today may be the day that I need to focus on the water and going through, and or maybe today's the day that I need to take my shoes off and go stand in some soil in order to, hopefully with these, the awareness of these other skills, it just makes us lighter on our feet and makes us more adept towards widening our resilience zone. So there's probably a long list of things that people do that they don't recognize are skills that bring them back into the resilience zone. So, man, I'm excited to find out as more and more folks see this video, what their report out is on some of the things that they do to bring themselves into the resilience zone.
Seriously, that's awesome, because I think once, you said people are doing it a little bit unconsciously, wait till they're aware of it and start really taking note of it and making sure that it's part of their daily routines now. Imagine how much change we're going to see with that ripple effect of people just being more aware of the way they're interacting, the way they're having conversations. I think just coming from a place of compassion with everything we do now is just going to help this shift that's kind of going on with everything.
And I think it's so important, this concept of finding compassion within and for yourself.
Totally.
Because often, I know so many wonderful givers out there who, there's things going on and they immediately go, how can I help you? Well, they're crumbling inside. And
totally.
It's that same concept of like, put your face mask on first, like breathe, like take care of you so that you can be there to help others. And shifting that dynamic around being selfish into self-care.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think you and I have had some fun with this previously, and I hope I rile some feathers here, because it's fun. It's supposed to be banter driven. Yeah. If you'd like to meet the most selfish person I've ever heard of, I'd like to introduce you to Mother Teresa. Because she understood better than anyone I've ever heard of that the way to make herself happiest is to serve others, which kind of hard to look down on Mother Teresa. Hey, now that's a selfish lady right there. Boy, wouldn't it be great if we were all so selfish?
Right.
So selfish altruism. And that's, I think that a series of those self-driven skills, not only, what's the quote? Change yourself and you'll change the world.
Yep.
Right? So why don't we just start where I think it's most convenient, and probably the dirtiest too, because we're talking to ourselves here, right? So that's it. Scott and I don't know if you see Scott here. Scott and I, we've been working on our resilience zone recently through journaling and through practicing teaching this model. So thank you so much for having me on today, Candy. And hopefully some of these skills will end up helping your practice to increasing your resiliency.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is such a wonderful model. I love that you're out there teaching this and sharing this with the world. There are so many people looking for healers and guides right now that they resonate with and speak their language. So how would people go about getting a hold of you if they would like to participate in the model?
Well, I am now a public servant. So one of the neat things is my services are jointly paid for by a grant through the North Valley Community Foundation called the Healing Trauma Through Nature Grant. We were funded $100,000 to pay for my position and for me to go to teach these skills to, most importantly, teachers.
Yeah.
To teachers, to anyone from 2-year-olds to 80-year-olds. I changed the way that we interacted. Your organization is another great place to bring this linguistic value to start to label some things. You can just call me at the Paradise Recreation and Parks District.
Scott, you know,
That's so awesome.
I'm not sure, we didn't really get to talk about this. The building that I purchased last year that we moved into, the Chico Unified Teachers Association is one of my tenants next door, and I feel like I should walk over there and let them know what you're doing. Can you give me some information so I can pass that on to them, because they're really great and they could really use what you're talking about?
Well, it would be an honor and a pleasure, and this is an interesting way to frame. I do a lot of work with teachers, and one of the things that I bring to the table when it comes to teachers is they don't need any more work to do. So really, what I learned after the campfire was that most of my effort was in managing other people trying to help us. So it was hard to stay focused on my family and the things that we were going through because so many people wanted to help. I kind of feel like that's the state that teachers might be in right now. So as much as I want to jump out there and, hey, I want to teach you this stuff. Come on, it's going to be great. It's going to be helpful. They're like, So the goal is to do this over time and when it fits. The easiest way to get a hold of me is my email address, samick@paradiseprpd.com. And to look up PRPD on our website, just call our number. I'm the only Scott here, so I can take it from there. Great opportunity for me to thank the North Valley Community Foundation that they sponsored the training for the community resilience model. And frankly, they have become an incredible leader in our community. And I hope to continue to support them as they continue supporting the rebuilding of the ridge.
That's awesome.
They've been such a staple in this community. I'm so grateful for all that they do and everything. They're amazing.
They really are.
We'll make sure to put your information into the notes and so that people can contact you and get this out there. It's been wonderful having you. And Kelly, I'm glad that you came on. Sorry for the technical issues in the beginning. I'm not sure what happened.
This was just a great conversation. I was so excited that I actually got to take part of this one today. It was really awesome to get to know you, Scott. I think this is a framework and a model that should just be kind of a part of our daily lives. So I'm really excited to watch how this expands and hopefully people understand how important it is. And so you guys, if you're new to this kind of framework and really reframing your body and your mind and how they work, share this with people that you know are going to benefit. This is just such a huge thing right now, especially with a lot of the stuff that we've got going on in the world right now. So this is the perfect time to start practicing these new skills.
Yep. So on that note, please do share this with anyone that you think could benefit from what we talked about today, could benefit from Scott's services, knows someone who could. Also, this is our Wellness Wednesday talk, and we'll be meeting back next week. So feel free to make comments. We'll reply to you and get a hold of Scott or us. And thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great week.
Bye-bye, everyone.